The alien city stood tall under the pale blue sky, its towers shining like silver spears, its gates higher than mountains of steel, glowing with strange lights, and guarded by creatures that looked half warrior and half machine. The city was a place of wealth, of safety, of pride. But not for everyone. Outside the gate, in the dust and wind, a girl waited. Her small body weak, her eyes empty from hunger. She was not like the other aliens who walked past her. Her clothes were torn, her skin pale with exhaustion. Her stomach growled with hunger that had lasted many days. She had no home, no family, no place to go. All she wanted was a chance to enter the city, a chance to find food, a chance to live. She stepped forward slowly, her trembling hands lifted toward the guards. "Please," she whispered, her voice soft like broken glass. "Please let me in, I need food. I need shelter." The guards looked at her with cold eyes. Their armor was heavy, their spears taller than her small body. One guard laughed. The sound sharp and cruel. "You?" he said, his voice filled with disdain. "You are nothing. You have no name. You have no worth. This city is not for the likes of you." The girl lowered her head. Her heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to argue. She wanted to scream. But her lips were too dry and her throat too tight. The other guard stepped closer, his eyes glowing with the light of the city gate. He shook his head. "Go back to the wasteland," he said. "There is no place for you here. You are weak, and the weak do not survive inside these walls." Her knees shook. She wanted to collapse right there. She felt the ground spinning beneath her feet. Around her, other aliens walked past. Some sneered, some ignored her. To them, she was invisible, a shadow not worth their time. Tears burned her eyes, but she fought them back. She had cried too many times, and the tears no longer helped. Hunger was stronger than sorrow. Hunger was sharper than pain. She took another step forward, her body swaying. But again the guards raised their weapons. "Not another step," one of them growled. "Leave." "Before we force you to." The girl's lips trembled. She looked at the gates, so close, so shining, and yet more unreachable than the stars above. Her chest tightened, her breath came shallow. She wanted to shout, "Why am I denied? What have I done?" But no sound came out as she stood there, weak and alone. The wind carried the smell of roasted food from inside the city. Her stomach twisted in agony. The scent of bread, meat, and fruit teased her senses, reminding her of everything she had lost. She wrapped her thin arms around herself, her fingers clutching her torn fabric. She felt like the world itself had turned against her. She wondered if this was how her life would end. Hungry, outside the gates, unseen, unwanted, forgotten. But in the corner of her dim vision, a figure stopped. It was not like the others who hurried past. This figure did not wear the tall helmets of the guards or the shimmering robes of the city dwellers. He was different. His clothes were rough, his boots covered in dust, and his face carried the lines of long travel. He was human. The guards noticed him too. They frowned at his presence, for humans were rare in these lands, and not always welcome, yet the man did not move away. Instead, he looked at the girl, his eyes not filled with scorn but with something else, something softer. The girl lifted her tired gaze to meet his, and in that moment she felt something strange. It was not pity, it was not mockery, it was recognition, as if he saw her not as weak or worthless, but as someone real, someone alive. The human's hand moved to his side bag. He pulled out a small package wrapped in cloth. The smell of dry bread and stew drifted into the air. The girl's eyes widened, her lips parting in shock. The guards scoffed. One of them stepped forward, his voice harsh. "What are you doing, human? Do not waste your food on her. She is nothing. She is denied." But the human did not answer them. His attention stayed only on the girl. He knelt down slowly so his eyes were level with hers. His voice was calm, steady, yet carried a strange strength. "Are you hungry?" he asked. Her throat tightened. She could not speak, she could only nod, a single tear slipping down her cheek. The man gave a small smile. He broke the bread in half, holding it toward her with steady hands. The guards watched in silence. The crowd paused. The air itself seemed to still. The girl reached out with trembling fingers, almost afraid to touch it, afraid it might vanish. But when her skin brushed against the bread, it was real, solid, warm. She held it close, as if it was the most precious treasure in the world. She looked at the human, her voice shaking. "Why? Why would you give this to me?" The man's eyes did not waver. He answered simply, his words carrying more weight than any weapon. "Because food is meant to be shared, not locked away." The girl froze. Her heart pounded louder than before. Something stirred deep inside her chest, something she did not understand yet. But she knew one thing. Her life had just changed. And everyone watching, including the guards, could feel it too. The bread rested in the alien girl's hands. Warm against her cold fingers, she stared at it as if it was unreal. Her stomach growled so loudly that even the guards heard. Her lips trembled. She wanted to eat, yet fear held her still. The crowd whispered among themselves. Their eyes moved from the human to the girl. Some laughed, some shook their heads. To them it was foolishness. To them the act of kindness meant nothing. But to the girl it meant everything. She lifted the bread slowly. Her eyes met the human's once again. His steady gaze gave her courage. She took a small bite. Her teeth sank into the soft crust and the taste exploded in her mouth. Her eyes widened. Her body shivered. It was the first real food she had tasted in days. Maybe in weeks. The flavor was simple. Yet to her it was sweeter than anything she had ever known. The guards frowned. One leaned closer to the human, his voice low and sharp. "You should not have done this, human. You do not know what you have started." The human only replied calmly, "She is hungry, I have food, that is all that matters." The guard growled but did not act. He seemed uncertain. His eyes flicked nervously toward the girl. The girl took another bite, but as she swallowed, something strange happened. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if touched by invisible light. It was soft at first, like the glow of the moon. But then it grew brighter. The crowd gasped. The girl froze, her hand clutching the bread tighter. She looked down at herself. Her pale skin was now marked with faint golden lines, like ancient patterns waking from a long sleep. I don't understand," she whispered, her voice shaking. The human leaned closer, his brow furrowed. He had traveled far across the galaxy, but he had never seen something like this. The bread in his hand was just simple food, yet when she ate it, the world itself seemed to respond. The glow spread from her arms to her face. Her eyes shone like twin stars. The dust around her feet swirled as if drawn by unseen energy. The crowd backed away, some shouted in fear. Some fell to their knees, others whispered the same word again and again. Prophecy. Prophecy. The guards exchanged worried glances, their cold arrogance now replaced with unease. One whispered to the other, "It cannot be. The bloodline was lost." "It cannot be true." The girl felt dizzy. She dropped the bread, clutching her chest. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break. The energy inside her was overwhelming. It burned and healed at the same time. The human caught her shoulders before she collapsed, his grip steady, strong, his voice calm. "Breathe, do not fight it. Just breathe." Her wide, glowing eyes met his again, and for a moment she felt grounded, safe. His presence was like an anchor in the storm rising within her. The gate itself began to hum. The massive steel doors trembled. Ancient symbols flickered across their surface. The light from the girl's body seemed to answer the gate as if it recognized her. The guards raised their weapons in panic. "Stay back!" One of them shouted, "This is forbidden, this should not happen." But the crowd pressed closer, their whispers louder, their fear mixed with awe. Many of them bowed their heads without even knowing why. The girl tried to speak, but her voice broke. I don't know what's happening to me." The human steadied her, his voice low. "Maybe you were never meant to be denied." The words struck her like lightning. Her chest tightened with a strange ache. She remembered her days of hunger, her nights of tears. Every moment she felt worthless and unseen, but now, the same people who had ignored her looked at her as if she was something more than they could ever imagine. The bread she held slipped from her trembling hand, falling into the dust. But the glow did not fade, it grew brighter. Her whole form seemed wrapped in golden fire. The human still held her steady. He was the only one unafraid. The only one who looked at her not with worship or fear, but with quiet understanding. The gates groaned louder. A deep rumble shook the ground. Sparks of blue and gold light danced across the surface. The ancient city itself seemed to awaken. The guards stepped back, sweat on their faces, their earlier cruelty gone, replaced with disbelief. The girl finally found her voice again, weak yet clear. "Why? Why me? I am no one, I am nothing." The human shook his head slowly. "No one is nothing. Sometimes it only takes a single act, a single moment, to show who you truly are." The words wrapped around her heart, stronger than the glow, stronger than the fear. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, truly seen. The crowd fell silent as the gate split apart with a thunderous sound. The light inside poured out like a river of fire. The city, which had denied her, now opened on its own. The girl stared in disbelief, her legs weak, her heart racing. And through the storm of light she whispered, This cannot be real." But it was real, and everyone there knew it. The human looked at her with steady eyes and said softly, "Sometimes the unthinkable happens." And with those words, the fate of two worlds shifted, carried by a simple meal shared at the edge of despair. The gates of the alien city groaned like thunder, ancient symbols glowing across their towering surface. The crowd pressed back in fear, their eyes fixed on the glowing girl. The air was thick with energy, like a storm waiting to break. The girl clutched her chest, her breath ragged. She did not understand what was happening. Her weak body now pulsed with light, her eyes burning like twin stars she wanted to hide. Yet something inside her refused to stop. It was like a fire that had always been asleep, now awakened by a single bite of bread. The guards stumbled backward, their weapons trembling in their hands. The arrogance they once wore like armor was gone. Their voices shook. "This is not possible." She was nothing. She was no one. The human stood beside her, calm but watchful. His hand rested gently on her arm, steadying her so she would not fall. His eyes scanned the glowing patterns spreading across her skin. They were not random lines, they looked like words older than the city itself. The crowd gasped as the girl's faint whispers carried on the wind. The golden marks on her skin moved like flowing rivers, shifting and reshaping. At first it looked like chaos, but then the symbols formed a crest, the shape of a crown with 3 stars above it. An elder in the crowd fell to his knees. His trembling voice echoed, "The lost heir, the blood of the first line. She has returned." The whispers turned to cries. Some people knelt, others shouted in fear, and some ran away, afraid of what this meant. The girl shook her head violently, her glowing eyes wide with panic. No, I am not. I am nothing. I was left outside, I was denied. I am not who you say." But the gate did not listen. It roared louder, a beam of light shooting upward into the sky. Clouds swirled above as if the heavens themselves were opening. The city responded to her presence like a heart recognizing its pulse. The guards, desperate, pointed their weapons at her. "Stay where you are. You are dangerous. You will bring ruin." The human stepped in front of her without hesitation, his voice low but sharp. "Lower your weapons. She is not your enemy." The guards sneered, though their hands trembled. "You don't understand. Human, if this prophecy is true, then everything we know will change. And change means war." The girl's knees gave way. She collapsed, but the human caught her again. His strong arms held her upright, her body glowed brighter, the air around her shimmering like heat waves. Her voice cracked. "I never wanted this, I only wanted food. I only wanted to live." The human leaned close, his tone firm but kind. "Sometimes fate does not ask what we want. It asks who we are." The crowd gasped as the girl's glow surged, rising like fire. The golden crest above her forehead burned bright, and suddenly the giant gates cracked open wider. A sound like a heartbeat thundered across the city walls. From deep inside the city came a rumble, like something vast was awakening. Lights spread along the towers, patterns reawakening after centuries of silence. The city itself seemed alive, recognizing its air. The guards tried to step forward again, but their feet refused to move. The ground shook beneath them, pushing them back. It was as if the city rejected their defiance. The human raised his head, his voice calm even in the chaos. "Do you see now? She was denied by you, but not by the city, not by destiny." The girl trembled, tears mixing with the light on her face. "I don't want to be an heir. I don't want to be a queen. I just want to be free." Her words struck the crowd harder than the thunder above, for they were simple, pure, unlike the cold commands of rulers they had known. One alien woman from the crowd stepped forward and knelt, her voice breaking. "If you truly are the heir, then you are not alone anymore. We will stand with you." The girl's breath caught. She looked at the human, her heart heavy, her fear still strong. He nodded slowly, his steady eyes holding hers. "Sometimes the unthinkable is not a curse. It is a beginning." The gates finally opened fully, light spilling out like a golden river. The people shielded their eyes as the city welcomed the girl it had once denied. And there, in the glow of destiny, a single human stood beside her, the only one unshaken, the only one who had believed she was more than nothing. The unthinkable had happened, and the galaxy itself would never be the same. The city gates stood wide open now, golden light spilling into the dusty ground outside. The crowd had fallen silent, all eyes fixed on the glowing girl. The human still held her steady, his grip strong enough to keep her upright as her body trembled with power she could not understand. From inside the city, a slow procession appeared, cloaked figures walking with staffs of crystalline robes marked with ancient symbols. They were the elders, the keepers of memory, the guardians of prophecy. Their arrival brought whispers, fear, and awe among the watching crowd. The lead elder raised his staff, its crystal burning with pale light. His voice carried over the square, deep and commanding. "Bring her forward," he said, his tone leaving no room for denial. The guards hesitated, their hands still on their weapons, but the ground itself rumbled, forcing them to step back. The human guided the girl forward slowly, each step heavy with confusion and fear. The girl's voice broke as she whispered, Why are you looking at me like this? I am no heir, I am no one." The elder lowered his hood, his face lined with centuries of wisdom. His eyes were fixed on the golden crest glowing above her brow. His voice trembled for the first time. "You are not no one. You are the spark we were told to wait for. The blood of the first house runs in your veins, lost but never broken." The girl shook her head violently, her tears glimmering in the light. "No. I was abandoned outside your walls. I was hungry, forgotten. You denied me. I cannot be who you say." The elder stepped closer, his staff hummed with energy, and he pointed it at the glowing patterns across her arms. The mark shifted again, forming a language long dead, yet known to every elder. He read aloud, his voice echoing like thunder. "The child of the broken shall return, rejected by the gate, found by the kindness of one not of our kind. Through hunger she will awaken, through sharing she will rise, and through her, the line of unity will be restored." Gasps rose from the crowd. Some bowed low, others wept openly. The prophecy was no longer a tale. It was unfolding before their eyes. The girl fell to her knees, clutching her head. No, this is not me. I am not chosen, I am cursed." The human knelt beside her, his voice calm. "You are not cursed, you are alive. And sometimes that is enough." The elder's eyes narrowed at the human. "You, outsider, do you realize what you have done? The meal you shared has awakened her blood without you. The air would never rise." The human met the elder's stare without flinching. "I did not seek prophecy. I saw hunger, I saw pain. That is all." The elder studied him for a long moment, then turned back to the girl. "Do you understand now, child? You were denied not because you were nothing, but because the gate itself was waiting for you to be revealed. You are the rightful heir to the throne lost centuries ago." The words crashed into her like waves. Her chest heaved, her eyes burned with tears and light. "But if I'm heir, why was I left to suffer? Why did no one protect me?" The elder lowered his head, his voice heavy. "The house was betrayed. Your family was slaughtered. You were hidden among the forgotten, so no enemy could find you. It was the only way to keep the bloodline alive." The girl's lips trembled, her heart tearing. The pain of her past now joined by the weight of a truth too heavy to bear. "All this time, I thought I was nothing, I thought I was worthless." The human placed a steady hand on her shoulder, his voice quiet yet firm. "Worthless lives are not written into the stones of prophecy." The elder raised his staff once more. His voice thundered across the square. "The heir has returned. The city must kneel." At once the crowd dropped to their knees. The guards lowered their weapons. The golden light from the gates wrapped around the girl like a crown. Her body trembled as if the city itself embraced her, yet her heart still fought. She turned to the human, whispering only for him. "I don't want to rule. I don't want a throne, I only wanted food. Why me?" The human looked at her with steady eyes. "Because sometimes fate chooses those who never asked for it, and maybe that is why you are the one." Her tears fell silently, glowing as they touched the ground. Each drop lit up like a star, and the people whispered in awe, calling her not just heir but savior. But behind the reverence, shadows moved. Not all welcomed the heir's return. In the far corners of the crowd, whispers of rebellion stirred. Eyes filled with hate burned quietly. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The heir had been revealed, but with truth came danger. And with danger came war. And as the girl stood, the human still at her side, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would come next. The golden gates of the city stood wide open, their ancient symbols glowing like fire carved into stone. The crowd still knelt in silence, afraid to move. Their eyes followed the girl whose body glimmered with light and sorrow. She stood trembling, the weight of prophecy pressing down on her shoulders. The human remained beside her, his presence steady and calm. He did not kneel, he did not bow. Yet his respect showed in his silence. His eyes never left the girl, because he knew she was breaking inside. The elders raised their staffs high, their voices booming across the city walls. The heir has returned, the first bloodline restored. The prophecy lives again. The crowd erupted with cries, some of joy, some of fear. Many shouted words of loyalty, but others whispered in anger. Their city had survived centuries without a throne. Not all were ready to welcome its return. The girl looked at their faces, at their voices mixing hope with doubt. Her glowing eyes shimmered with tears. She felt no triumph, only pain. "I never wanted this," she whispered. "I only wanted to live. I only wanted food." The elder stepped closer, his face stern. "Child, destiny does not ask what you want. It demands what you are." But the human finally spoke, his tone sharp. "Destiny is not a chain, it is a path, and no one should be forced to walk it without choice." The crowd gasped at his boldness. An outsider, a human daring to speak against the elders. Yet the girl's heart stirred at his words. Her voice rose, stronger now. "I was denied at your gates, I was cast aside. If this is what it means to rule, then I will not rule as you did. I will not build walls that leave the weak outside. I will not close the gates against the hungry." Her words spread like fire. Some of the kneeling people lifted their heads, their eyes filled with awe. They had never heard such defiance from one destined for the throne. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. They had expected obedience, not rebellion. One of them muttered, "She speaks with a heart too soft. She will break our laws." But the human stepped closer to her side, his voice firm. "Strength is not in cruelty. It is in kindness. That is what you feared. That is why she was left outside, because kindness is power you could not control." The girl's light flared brighter, filling the square with golden warmth. She looked at the human, her voice steady now. "You gave me food when no one else would. You saw me when no one else did. If I am heir, then I choose not to be their ruler, but their servant. I will share what was denied to me." The people gasped again, but this time it was not in fear. It was in hope. The sound of chains breaking echoed in their hearts. One by one, voices rose from the crowd. "She is not like the others. She speaks truth. She is the heir we need." The guards who once threatened her now lowered their weapons fully, their faces uncertain but touched by the fire of her words. Some even bowed their heads willingly, not from command but from respect. The elders shouted in protest, "You will destroy the order of this city. You will bring chaos." But the girl raised her hand and the gates behind her answered. Their golden light pulsed like a heartbeat. Stronger and louder, the city itself seemed to side with her. Her voice rang clear across the square. "Then let the old order fall, for what is order without justice? What is a city without hope?" The silence that followed was broken not by fear, but by cheers. The people rose to their feet, their voices crying out together, not in obedience but in unity. The girl turned to the human, her lips trembling into the first real smile she had worn in years. "You gave me a meal, but you gave me more than that. You gave me a chance to be seen." The human's voice was quiet, almost lost in the roar of the crowd. "And you gave them a reason to believe." The light around her body settled, no longer wild, now calm. Like a crown that chose to stay, her tears still shone. But they were no longer only of sorrow, they were of resolve. The elders, defeated by the will of the people, lowered their staffs, their eyes bitter but resigned. The old world had ended and a new one had begun. The girl raised her hands, not as a queen above them, but as one of them. "Today we begin again. No one will be denied at these gates. No one will be left to starve, not while I breathe." The crowd roared, voices uniting into one, for the first time in centuries. The city's walls echoed not with fear but with hope, and as the sun set behind the towers, casting the gates in crimson light, a single truth burned in the hearts of all who saw it. One meal had changed a life. One act of kindness had rewritten destiny. And from that day forward, the galaxy remembered it not as the return of a throne, but as the birth of an alliance of hunger and hope.